Okay, so now you've got your concept, you know what you're working with. If you're looking for a concept for this project, I've actually provided one for you on the list. If you go to this week's class schedule and you look at the model and apartment building, I've picked out a couple specific ideas and concepts for you on this Pinterest board. These are all just architectural drawings of building facades. And I picked this because they're really repeatable and they're relatively simple. And they range the gamut of lots of different styles. If you have something slightly different you want to do, just let me know. What we should be seeing, though, is something that repeats a lot. Because our goal with this second week's assignment is to show you how basically thinking modularly, you can make a large, complicated shape with lots of little pieces. And buildings are perfect for that. Here's a good example of, these windows are essentially the same with a slightly different inset, as is this door with just a little modification. And then all of these windows are the same, these windows are the same, and these windows are the same. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 with some modifications, things to do. And you can have an entire building with just, under a dozen models pretty simply here. So come through here and look for any of your favorites. Often if you click on one of these, it'll take you to, in Pinterest, other things that are similar. It's a place I like to look. So if there's something you like on one of these that's not in my concept, that's cool, that's okay. Just let me know if you want to do something slightly off what I've shared with you here in the schedule. So when you've done that, your best bet is to make a PureRef little board like I've done here. And I put my core asset in it. This is going to be, even though it's just one image right now, it's nice because I can scroll and zoom in and zoom out of it really easily. But I will be adding more stuff to this later. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll save it, because you want to make sure that you have all your stuff. Whoops. I've got it. I've saved it in a folder. And let's now work on blocking out our actual scene. So there's a bunch of ways, of course, we can just start dropping in new meshes here, but I want to show you this little tool here, which I think is pretty cool. So this is the little add geometry tool, and it lets you add in things like cubes really simply. But first, we're going to get something to add it onto. So I want to make a plane, and I want to get it thinking about what's about the size of an average street or block, because this is just right now a 2 meter by 2 meter. Each of these grids is about a meter. So how can we make it feel more sized appropriately? So I'm just going to give it a size like a lot larger than it is right now. So it's just got a size of this 2 meters by 2 meters. If I scale it up by like 10, we see that it's 20 meters by 20 meters, which is, I think, a good place to start with putting our building together. This is sort of going to be the surrounding street of everything. I'm going to think about this as what my building's going to go onto. So now we can start dropping in and blocking in literally our scene. So this lets us draw and drag and start putting things in together. Okay, so I'm gonna select the tool here, my Add Cube tool. Over in this N properties panel on the side, they call it the sidebar, I have tool, and here's all the settings for this tool. So I can set what I want it to lock onto. And I want to change this orientation, the snap to, from geometry. I'm going to change this to what's called default, meaning it's going to use these settings up here to snap to this absolute grid. And I also want its origin to be on the center. What this means is as I drag it out, we can see it's going to snap to the grids and the sizes here. So I can draw out a nice shape and then drag it up to start the overall profile of my building. I just want to get a sense of the right amount of size, the right amount of height with this. Something that's like literally a block in. So I'm just getting, something that feels appropriate proportionally. So it feels like it's a little too tall. I need to maybe bring it down a couple steps to hit this aspect ratio. And then I'm going to turn off the snapping and just kind of block in some of the key features maybe to this building. So I'm going to say E to extrude, and then right click to pull it back out, S to scale that up, and then I'm just going to lift it to create the base for my little pediment sort of setting, or this would be the beginning of the entablature or cornice up here. And I'm just, like I said, knocking in major features and trying to figure out, okay, it looks like there's this whole setup, and then there's this little cornice running through it, and that kind of subdivides these two. So I'm just going to eyeball down here, or I can snap things in. Looks to me too like the bottom of the building isn't on the floor, which I definitely want. So I'm going to turn the snapping back on here. You can also hold control, does the same thing, but I'm just going to turn it on. So I can drag it down, which is great. Turn that back off. 2 to get into my edge select mode, and I can hit GG to just slide this up and down to help me figure out, okay, proportionately, where does this look like it's coming from here? So maybe about there. And then I'm going to hit Control R, right click to get it right in the center here. And then I can take these two lines because I'm supposed to kind of make a little molding out of this, and Control B. And then I'm going to do Alt E, and we're going to extrude faces along normals. Just a little bit like so. I can even say scale, Shift Z will help me control that a little bit. This is just, like I said, the starting of the building. We're trying to get a sense of where the features are at. Let's take these top elements here, stretch those out a little bit. I use a lot of these command keys. You can also use the little widget tools. I don't use those as much because I'm really used to the hotkeys, but you can also hit these same, like this will scale this way, and the little square will scale in the other proportions. You can hold Shift to sort of tone down how strong that effect is. And this is what we're talking about when I say we're blocking it in. We're not really thinking too deeply about like, oh, there's all these little details. And in fact, I want to like look at my concept from something really broad, because it's exactly what I'm trying to get, is the sense of, okay, there's a little piece up here and there's a little crown piece here. And that's going to help me knock things in. I'm not worried about buildings or windows or things like that. I'm just trying to figure out the relative scale of the street and everything. So we get that. Let's turn this into think about some other features that might go into this street. So I'm going to say my add cube, and maybe there needs to be a lamp post or something I want in the corner. So I can drag this out and just put that up and say, okay, that seems about height-wise correct. And then I start adding things into the scene, like maybe this is going to be some kind of a mailbox. Just trying to get it proportionately into where I want it. So something like that. What else could go on a street like this? Maybe my building or something needs some sort of entrance or awning that I don't have in it yet. Let's set it to here. I'm going to snap it to my grid so it gets right on there. And then think about maybe this is where some sort of grand entrance for my building needs to go. Maybe a water tower needs to go on top of it. And I'm just keeping everything in really simple shapes, so that now I have when I have these things kind of put in together, this is how I can start organizing it. Before I do any modular modeling, before I break anything down, this is just going to be sort of a demo or breakdown of things. So let's grab this, F2, or I can rename it on my thing here, and I'm going to name this just building, and I'm going to call this, I like to call this BLK or something like that, underscore afterwards to like let me know this is a block in. Lots of people do different connections. I like the underscores because it lets me know what it's for. If I do that with materials, I do with lots of stuff. You'll come up with your own system. But basically, I put in the name what it's for. Water tower underscore BLK. Or I could write the whole word block out if I want. I'm probably not going to. Entrance. And this is going to be the beginning of my lamp post. And again, it's just about trying to get proportions and sizes in here. And this is mailbox underscore. Now, another really important thing to get this in sense of is now a scale or size of your whole piece. So what we can do is add something that's human size to make sure this is all scaled up. I'm gonna call this street 2. Street underscore BLK. So to do that, I've got everything like named up in here, which is nice, and it's going to give me a good start. Let's talk about though how we can bring something in. Now I could just take, say, a cube like this, and by scaling its height to about Z of 1.6, which is about a 6-foot person, and then I could scale in the other proportions too, and just say, okay, this is my prototype person height. And wherever this goes, this is about the height of the person, telling me, whoa, that mailbox is way too big. And maybe my building is a little aggressively sized. But I actually think the building's pretty good. It's just that entrance is pretty good. It's this mailbox is way too big for what it should be. Another thing I can do is add in a rigify. Rig as just a demo, which I like too. So if we go up to our plugins, up in preferences, in our add-ons, there's a tool in here we're going to use later in the class called Rigify. And Rigify is nice because when you do Shift A, it's going to create for you under armature. We can just go to a basic human meta rig, and this is in here, but if I hit G to move it out, you see it's basically just a standy version of a person. So it's about the same size as that little cube we made. So this will let us say, okay, now I'm looking at this and some of the other proportions are good, but man, this mailbox is really off. So I can scale this mailbox down and get it to the right size. Of course, annoyingly, the mailbox is in the wrong spot. I'll show you how we can use our orients to actually make that work a little bit better for us. Then ask yourself, like, when we're looking at something like a US mailbox, how tall is it compared to a person? You know, when someone's putting letters in it. So these are all photos of it by itself. But sometimes, let's see what we get. Just a photo, all I need is something like that, that puts a person with a mailbox. Let's see, US mailbox, retrieving. Nope. Here's a nice little reference. Like I can see there's like a motorcycle in there. We get some good photos of it. Actually, I like that one so much. I'm kind of doing a New York one. I'm going to bring this right in. So I can just drag it and drop it right into my PureRef board. And now it's part of my scene. So this is something we're going to do to just help us get ready with all these projects. So here it is. This is my block-in. This is, it doesn't seem like you're like, but Andrew, all you do is a couple computes conduct. Yeah, but I'm just trying to get the proportions. Remember, it's about drawing the rest of the owl. We're trying to keep things really simple right now so that we can break them into more complicated shapes later. I'll see you in the next one.